Well, so let's zoom out a little bit further, because I think you're touching on another topic that is near and dear to me, and that's the idea of us becoming reliant on it to do things for us, and limiting our ability to kind of get uncomfortable and have to solve the problems ourselves. I think about the kid in 6th grade right now that has had this for 3 years, and is starting to use it to do their homework, and they're going to be in school for another 6 years till they graduate from high school. In 6 years' time, we will be much further along. It'll be incredible. And then that kid will have used that tool for another 6 years doing basic. I mean, the modern education system is ill-equipped to deal with what this can do for learning. And then that kid's going to be asked to go to college and spend $250,000 or $300,000 to spend another 4 years before they can get to entry level. So you're talking 10 years out before this 22-year-old is going to be, this 12-year-old is going to be 22 and is going to be then presented with what? I mean, do you see there being entry-level jobs for these emerging workers in 10 years?
Yeah, it scares the hell out of me, to be honest with you. And, I mentor a lot of young people. They're in college, just breaking in right now, and they're having trouble finding gigs. And the reason is because I don't think the AI is at the level where it's replacing them yet, because the companies just aren't that far ahead. But they see it coming where they're going to automate a lot of the tactical roles that you do when you start out. And so I don't have a magical answer as to what role those people are going to play. Well, the good news, birth rate's going down, so there's less people entering the workforce, at least in the States.
That may be a good reason why we rely on it, to keep the productivity up.
But at the end of the day, it's something we're going to have to figure out. And I think the role of college is going to change. Number one, college shouldn't cost $500,000 to get a damn college degree. And ultimately, what we teach in college and how we use this technology needs to be taught along with it. Right now, it's kind of a unspoken secret that everybody's writing their term papers using ChatGPT, and they just run it through the humanizer and you can't detect it. And so that's well known. And so that's how people are running this stuff. It would write better than me. I'm severely dyslexic. So people are asking themselves, well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to write papers. I'm not going to write copy. I'm not going to, manage databases. That's going to be done automatically. What role am I going to play to break into something? And that's where it gets into the fact that we may see return to the trades, because those are very difficult to automate. Electricians, plumbers, carpenters, things like that. I mean, those guys make bucks, by the way. Ask Mike Rowe. And the ability to look at other alternatives where these people are going to have their experience. I don't know what those are, to be honest with you. I was just thinking, what would that be? And I don't think I could recommend something. I would say, start getting your expertise early. I would start learning to be an architect instead of learning to be a coder, when I was in college, if I saw this coming. And that would be because I can get out into a world where we're going to have a differentiator. I'm not going to be able to do something AI can't replicate, or at least easily replicate yet. And so we need to think about this as employers, as parents, as people that are paying, $300,000 for a college degree, as to what they should be doing. And I think a lot of the younger people that I'm running into right now are a little demoralized in the fact that this is coming along. In other words, they like using the technology, but they don't really feel that people are looking out for them in terms of what they're going to be doing.
Honestly, this whole move towards STEM studies, science, technology, was a bit of a rug pull, because in the end, the first jobs, and I think we can all admit to this, that the first jobs that have gone away are coders. I mean, there's no question right now that Claude Code is dominant in terms of its ability to produce code better than humans.
Yep. Agreed.
And so all these kids that were told to go get computer science degrees, because that's where the money was, much like plumbing is potentially in the next 5 years, they're all now bussing tables and working in the service industry and trying to figure out what is their next move while they have to pay all these student loans. it's this is the thing that bothers me, and this is part of the reason why I want to have these conversations is what do we tell the young people with regard to directionally where they should start thinking about laser focus?
Yeah. And I provided some of that advice and written about it a few times. I think that if you're going to be associated with something that can be easily automated, you probably shouldn't move in that direction. Don't take that degree, don't take that job. That's going to be a career path that's going to end up going away. Even if you find employment now, eventually they're going to figure out how to automate you out of the employment. So you have to figure out a way to look at where the market is going and what the key skills are that are going to be needed. And your ability to look at that is old as time. In other words, we could figure out early in the 80s that if you learn how to code, you're going to make big bucks, as a computer science person, things like that. And that's when I went up and we just walked right into a job. But now it's not as easy. And so, what are you going to be able to do? Well, there's jobs out there that deal with creativity, deal with, assembling things and deal with thinking that are going to be useful to you. But to the point you made earlier, I don't think we're going to need as many of those people to run those companies. The creative types you have in the company are typically a small portion of the companies. And if everything is going to be automated below them, which we can do for the most part, not everything, but the majority of stuff can be automated, then suddenly it becomes a bit more of an upside down thing. So what do you do with all these millions of kids who come out of college? They're trying to, that's the question we're answering now. And I think the reality is I don't have an answer for them. I don't have a real answer for them. Wouldn't admit to have any kind of a guidance for it to make it happen. And it may be something we have to address as a society. We're going to have to figure out a way to do this, some sort of an intellectual bailout, where everybody was moving in this direction where they thought there was going to be money. But we had this juggernaut come along that was AI that automated everything, which disempowered them to make the money. Then what are they going to do? And I think we have to really kind of answer the question. And I think that I don't hear people addressing it because I think it's a big, scary thing. I think it's scary. Certainly the young people are going to the market, still living in their parents' basement. They can't get a job. They can't move forward in their life. But it's very scary to us because we got to figure out a way to solve that issue. Eventually, we can't have millions of young people who are, jobless and pointless and, don't know what to do. So we have to be able to answer what that is. And I think people will find a way. In other words, the Industrial Revolution, the farmer stuff went away, and they figured out other things they could do. Obviously, buggy work repair and things like that, they changed to something else. Eventually, people will find a way and they'll kind of land on their feet. But I think this one is going to be so disruptive. It's going to take a long period of time, and I think many people are going to get hurt. We're going to have depressed people out there. We're going to have psychological issues, things like that, because we're not giving them hope that they're going to have a role in this world. I'm sitting pretty based on where am I in my career, but I worry ending the career right now. I'd be concerned. If 21-year-old David Linthicum, entering into the marketplace with my 2.5 GPA, good luck finding a job, especially with all the competition out there, and especially with most of the stuff can be automated. So, I hate to answer your question with no answer, but I think that's the answer.